something on 911?
My brother just came to my house and told me that he put his girlfriend in and put her in Clean Park Lake.
Blood was found underneath the carpet. Right here.
There were a couple bones on the surface.
On Monday, June 14th, 2004, the family of 24-year-old Tamika Houston made a desperate call to report her missing. For weeks, the young woman had vanished without a trace.
According to the FBI's Behavioral Sciences Unit in Virginia, Christine's killer is between 19 and 26 years old.
When the Spartanburg Police Department agreed to conduct a welfare check, they hoped that Tamika had simply left town without notifying anyone. But as they approached her small home on Harvard Drive, something felt off. Her black 1991 Honda CRX was nowhere in sight. The house appeared quiet, too quiet. The officers knocked several times, but no one answered. After circling the property, they discovered a window that was slightly ajar. Climbing through the opening, the officers found themselves in a shocking mess. On the kitchen counter sat an uncashed paycheck, a small but telling detail that hinted Tamika hadn't planned to leave for long. The rooms bore no signs of a struggle, no shattered glass, no upturned furniture. But as they searched further, a foul smell filled the air. Following the smell, they found a heartbreaking scene. Tamika's loyal pit bull was surrounded by a litter of small puppies. The dogs were in a pitiful state, left abandoned for days, and the room was filthy.
The dog had drank all the water out of its bowl, eaten all of its food, drank all the water out of the toilet. It was just obvious that she had not been there in quite some time.
Tamika would never have left her dogs to suffer like this. Something was terribly wrong here. Where was she? What was happening? Hello and welcome back. If you're new here, don't forget to subscribe and click the notification bell. In today's episode, we're diving into the tragic story of Tamika Houston that sent shockwaves through the Black community in America. Let's get back to the case. Tamika Antoinette Houston was born on December 11, 1979, in Spartanburg, South Carolina, to father Anthony Houston and mother Gabriella Semenehi. Tamika was the third of 4 siblings and shared a close bond with her family. After high school, she took on work as a waitress, embracing her independence by moving into a small house on Harvard Drive in Spartanburg. Her first act of freedom was adopting a pit bull named Macy, who quickly became her loyal companion and the heart of her home. Singing was Tamika's true calling, and she quickly became a pillar in the church choir. In 2003, Tamika decided to enter the music industry by auditioning for the reality TV show American Idol in Atlanta, Georgia. Unfortunately, she never made it past the first round. Putting her dream of stardom aside, Tamika returned to nursing school, determined to change the world with a meaningful passion. Her life was filled with promises. By May 2004, Tamika was preparing for summer break after an intense school term. But those plans would take a dark turn. No one had heard from her for a few days. At first, Tamika's family wasn't alarmed. She was often busy with spontaneous outings or short trips with friends. Going off the radar for a few days was typical of her adventurous nature. However, 2 weeks passed and her family's worry turned into genuine fear. Her aunt, Rebecca Howard, couldn't shake the feeling that something was terribly wrong. She reached out to the Spartanburg Police Department, hoping that a welfare check on Tamika's home might provide some answers. Police quickly informed Tamika's family of her abandoned house and starving-to-death dogs. The news sent chills to their spines. This was no carefree getaway. Police issued an all-points bulletin, BOLO, for Tamika and her missing car, while her family sprang into action. They flooded the community with missing person flyers, hoping that someone might come forward with a clue or any information that could shed light on her whereabouts.
As a mother, it's very difficult not knowing where my daughter is or hoping that and thinking that she's okay and safe.
Detectives Steve Lamb and Jay Stedman were assigned to the urgent case of Tamika Houston's disappearance. Wasting no time, they subpoenaed her banking and cell phone records to investigate Tamika's final known movements. But the findings were useless. Tamika's phone had been silent and her bank account untouched since early May 2004. The evidence supported her family's desperate claims. No one had seen or heard from Tamika in weeks.
Could have been a traffic accident off the side of a road, and which would still be a tragedy, but it would be a criminal tragedy.
Despite the grim details, investigators doubted that Tamika simply chose to vanish. After all, an adult had the right to disappear if they wished. Tamika's family sensed something was deeply wrong here. They urged the police to investigate a man named Terrence Moss, Tamika's ex-boyfriend. The couple had recently gone through a stormy breakup, and lingering tensions might play a role in her disappearance. Detectives dug into Terrence's background and found a disturbing criminal history. His record showed charges of domestic violence and other minor infractions. More alarming, Tamika herself had filed a domestic violence charge against Terrence Moss. The hearing was set for a week after she had been reported missing.
She was a victim of domestic violence. She's supposed to go to court and testify against this guy.
Tamika's sudden disappearance, right before she was due to testify, seemed too coincidental, hinting at two possible motives. Perhaps Tamika had left town to avoid the stress and anxiety of facing her ex-boyfriend in court, or Terrence had done something to silence her before she could testify. In a shocking twist, Terrence had left a voicemail to Tamika's aunt, asking where she was.
Hi, Becky. This is Terrence. I've been trying to get in contact with Tamika. Nobody seems to have heard from her, so I just want to know if she's said. That's all. Thank you.
After knowing the police were after him, on June 23, 2004, Terrence voluntarily arrived at the Spartanburg police station for questioning. Expressing concern for Tamika's well-being, he claimed he wanted to assist the investigation in any way he could. Terrence admitted to having a turbulent relationship with Tamika. They had been together since 2000 and lived under the same roof until March 2004. Terrence confessed that he had struck Tamika during a heated argument. The fight had driven Tamika to kick him out of their shared home, and she had immediately filed a domestic abuse charge against him.
I punched her. I actually punched her. And I fell down on my knees and I started praying, and I was like, it's just so many demons in here that, we're becoming physical with each other now that we just need to separate.
However, Terrence fiercely denied any involvement in her disappearance. He expressed regret for hitting her and claimed he was genuinely worried about her well-being when he learned that she was missing.
As we kept pressuring and pushing and repeating questions to him, he became agitated and finally just shut down from us and refused to talk to us completely.
Terrence Moss is prime suspect number one.
For now, Terrence was the prime suspect, but without physical evidence, the authorities had no choice but to release him. However, they kept Terrence under close watch, hoping he might slip up or reveal something that could solidify their case. The police ramped up their efforts to find any sign of Tamika. They checked hospital records and scoured local mortuary files for unidentified women reported between May and June 2004. They combed through accident reports and sifted through 911 call logs, and finally found a disturbing lead. Someone had called to report a woman's murder, claiming her body had been dumped in Cleveland Park Lake, very close to where Tamika had lived. The call was made in June, right around the time she vanished.
911. My brother just came to my house and told me that he killed this girl Queen and put her in Cleveland Park Lake. Where does he live? He lived in Boxville.
Investigators launched a large-scale search. Divers plunged into the murky lake, scouring its depths for any sign of human remains, while search teams combed the surrounding woods and foliage with cadaver dogs. Hours passed, and the search yielded nothing. The body was nowhere to be found. To the detectives, it felt like a cruel distraction. Attempts to trace the anonymous call led nowhere. It had come from a prepaid, untraceable burner phone used near Cleveland Park Lake. Yet, despite this setback, a sliver of hope remained. No body found meant there was still a chance that Tamika could be alive. Meanwhile, Tamika's family tirelessly distributed flyers and updated the public about her disappearance. They even announced a $50,000 reward for any information that could lead to her return. One flyer at a gas station caught the attention of a woman, and she immediately contacted the authorities. One week after Tamika Houston was reported missing, a local woman contacted the Spartanburg Police Department, reporting an abandoned car in the parking lot of the Barksdale Apartments. She explained that it had been sitting there, untouched, for several days. It was a black 1991 Honda CRX, the same car Tamika had driven.
Sunday, I got called at home and said that patrol officers had found her vehicle on the other side of town.
Investigators and forensic units raced to the Barksdale apartment complex, just 4 miles from Tamika's home. Their suspicions were confirmed when a quick check of the license plates matched their records. But the big question remained. Did Tamika herself leave the car there, or had someone else abandoned it to cover their tracks? Forensic specialists meticulously searched the vehicle for any signs of foul play. There were no bloodstains, no signs of a struggle, nothing obvious to suggest violence.
And there's really nothing forensic-wise that we recovered from that vehicle. It wasn't like there was her blood or DNA or anything.
As police dusted the car for fingerprints, a partial print on the steering wheel caught their attention. This was a potential breakthrough that could place a suspect behind the wheel. Underneath the front passenger seat, they made another curious discovery. A set of keys.
You can see that one looked like an automobile key and one looked like a house key.
Back at the police station, the partial fingerprint was run through the Integrated Automated Fingerprint Identification System, IAFIS, a database used to match fingerprints against known criminal records. The results came back empty. Whoever left the print on the steering wheel did not have a recorded criminal history, or perhaps they had carefully avoided detection in the past. This disappointing result eliminated Tamika's ex-boyfriend Terrence Moss as a suspect, who had been under scrutiny due to his violent history to Tamika. Detectives turned their attention to the set of keys. There were no fingerprints or DNA found on the keys. They tested them, starting with Tamika's car. None fit. Then they tried them at Tamika's house, but once again, the keys were useless. The dead ends led to a chilling realization. These keys likely belonged to whoever had taken Tamika. A closer inspection revealed a stamped code on the keys, AA14. Detectives began contacting local locksmiths, hoping someone would recognize the code and reveal the key's origin. Finally, after 5 months, one locksmith recognized the AA14 code.
When this particular key was brought to us, we knew it was a housing authority key, so we then cross-referenced it, and we saw the AA14 matched the Fremont School apartment.
He explained that the keys were custom-made for the Fremont School apartment complex, an old building with a unique history in Spartanburg. Formerly an elementary school, the building had been converted into public housing units years earlier. The Fremont School apartments consisted of 46 units, a maze of hallways and doors that held the potential to either reveal the next piece of the mystery or present another dead end. Detectives tried the set of keys on every door in the building. Just as they were beginning to lose hope, the key finally opened a basement door.
It fit a door in the basement. And the door that it fit in the basement, when it opened up, that was an apartment that was closed. It had been taken offline because of flood issues.
The basement apartment had suffered heavy flooding, and the space was left abandoned, with peeling paint, water-damaged walls, and mold creeping in every corner. It was clear that the unit hadn't been inhabited for quite some time. Detectives carefully collected potential evidence and sent it to the crime lab for analysis. In their search for answers, detectives spoke with a maintenance worker and learned that the manager would swap doorknobs and locks between an empty apartment and another unit without keeping any records. This policy was designed to prevent tenants who were evicted or overdue on rent from sneaking back in with their old keys. This made it nearly impossible to determine the origin of the AAA14 keys, but the maintenance worker provided a list of former tenants who had once lived in the building. When the crime lab results came back, the outcome was another crushing disappointment. The samples collected from the basement apartment offered no evidence that Tamika had been there. It was another dead end. As the investigation team reviewed the list of former tenants, one name caught their attention: Chris. Although Tamika's family didn't recognize the name, one of her close friends did. The friend recalled that Tamika had recently mentioned dating someone named Chris after her breakup with Terrence. There was only one Chris on the tenant list: Christopher Hampton. Running a background check on Christopher Hampton revealed a disturbing record. At only 23 years old, Christopher had a serious criminal history, including a conviction for bank robbery in 2000. He had recently served a 30-day sentence for a traffic violation after breaching his parole conditions. This breach meant he had been jailed without a hearing. But crucially, Christopher had not been in jail at the time of Tamika's disappearance. In fact, he had been evicted from his apartment at the Fremont School Complex just 1 month after Tamika went missing. Detectives wasted no time in tracking down Christopher and brought him in for questioning in late June 2004. During the interrogation, Christopher admitted that he had been dating Tamika. However, he denied having anything to do with her disappearance. According to Christopher, Tamika was planning to attend Bike Week, an annual motorcycle rally held in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. He suggested that she had left Spartanburg to enjoy the event.
She said, I want to go to Bike Week.
She said who she was going with?
No, she didn't say. She said she was going.
Did you see her at any point after that?
Nah, last time I seen her.
Detectives were eager to see if Christopher's fingerprint matched the partial print found in Tamika's car. But his prints did not match. With no physical evidence, Christopher was released. Tamika's family refused to let her case go cold. They reached out to television host John Walsh, urging detectives to appear on America's Most Wanted to seek the public's help.
Tamika Houston is a young woman who disappeared down in South Carolina.
All the leads that we've chased down have run into basically a dead end.
And their efforts paid off. A woman came forward, claiming to be Christopher Hampton's ex-wife. She had recently received a package from Christopher while he was in jail. Inside the package was his wallet, along with a photograph of herself and their 2 children. But something caught her attention: a red stain on the picture. She suspected it might be blood.
She says, I've got his wallet if y'all want to come look at it.
She also said there was a tiny speck of blood on the wallet.
It was very important. If it wasn't for that media coverage there, that young lady may have never came forward.
Detectives wasted no time sending the photograph to the lab for testing. Within days, the results confirmed their worst fears. The red stain was human blood. Detectives approached Tamika's parents to request DNA samples. After a month, the DNA results finally came back. It was a match. The blood on the photograph belonged to Tamika Houston. Armed with this critical evidence, the detectives tracked down Christopher, bringing him back for another round of questioning. But Christopher continued to deny any involvement in Tamika's disappearance. He claimed the blood on the photograph was just a coincidence.
Whatever happened to Tamika happened right there in your apartment.
Yeah, I believe that. How you know that blood? It could be anybody's blood.
No, it can't be anybody's blood. How long do you think we've been doing this? You don't know that we can tell one person's blood from another blood?
Damn.
You ever heard of DNA?
Yep.
The DNA evidence provided a strong link, but without a clear cause of death or additional evidence, it would be challenging to secure a conviction in court.
But you still got murder, manslaughter, involuntary, self-defense, accident. What do you have to fill in any of those 5 scenarios right now?
Detectives redoubled their efforts to find Tamika. They searched local hospitals, combed through emergency reports, and even launched a citywide search. Just as hope began to wane, another break came in, this time from a teenager. In September 2004, a young woman contacted the Spartanburg Police Department with explosive information. She had dated Christopher in May 2004, around the time Tamika disappeared. She revealed that there was a large, reddish-brown stain in Christopher's bedroom, apartment 215. Investigators worked quietly to secure a search warrant for apartment 215. They understood that time was against them. It had been over a year since Tamika vanished, and any physical evidence in the apartment could have been destroyed by the new tenants. On December 24, 2004, Christopher suddenly sent a handwritten letter to Special Agent Troy Breeze of the FBI. He claimed someone had poured beer, ketchup, hot sauce all over his bedroom floor, so he had to clean the room.
He says in the letter, I went to my apartment and found that somebody had come into my apartment and poured beer on my floor, smeared mayo, ketchup, hot sauce, flour, and all kinds of other stuff all over my bedroom floor.
And in this letter, he talked about he had rented a carpet cleaner. And instantly, I knew, why is this guy telling us he rented a carpet cleaner? He's telling us this because he thinks we know something that we don't know.
He goes on to say, I saw Tamika last the day before I rented the cleaner.
This immediately raised red flags. Detectives brought the young woman who had dated Christopher in for questioning. This young woman, whose name was withheld from public records and her voice was distorted, recounted one visit to Christopher's 215 apartment.
When I looked at the show tonight, the America's Most Wanted, they said they was talking. They said that whoever it was said that it was ketchup. That stain did not look like no ketchup. It looked like that was liquid that had been poured. It looked like it was coming from the closet.
There was a large reddish-brown stain on the bedroom floor, and Christopher's dresser had been pushed against the closet door.
And he didn't have no cover on his bed. It was just a brand new bed.
And his explanation for the stain was that it was
red Kool-Aid.
Red Kool-Aid.
That's what he told me.
Christopher claimed the stain was red Kool-Aid. Fearful of alerting him, she had kept her observations to herself and even spent the night at his apartment. To the detective's horror, the young woman admitted she was only 15 years old at the time and terrified of what Christopher might do if he discovered she had exposed him. Finally, in July 2005, 14 months after Tamika disappeared, investigators secured the warrant.
Entering apartment 215, Fremont Apartments. There's the entrance door, the living room.
In the bedroom, the investigators found clear signs of an attempted cleanup. A large section of carpet had been heavily bleached. Cutting away the top layer, forensic team uncovered a hidden horror: a significant amount of dried blood.
And when we pulled the carpet up, there was a large reddish-brown stain that was on the back of the carpet and into the padding on the floor.
Luminol testing turned the bedroom into a scene of haunting illumination. As the lights went out, huge patches of blood glowed, revealing a tragic story. In the closet, the luminol revealed even more: massive stains of heavy bleeding. DNA tests were rushed through, using the samples already collected from Tamika's parents. The blood all belonged to Tamika Houston.
There's potentially a big break this morning in the case of a missing 24-year-old woman who disappeared last year. Investigators now say they found blood in a former apartment of a person that they've been questioning.
The amount of blood stain told a grim story. Investigators theorized that Tamika might have been locked inside the closet, injured and bleed to death while Christopher entertained an underage girl in the same apartment. Now, their mission was clear. They had to find Tamika's body. On Friday, August 12, 2005, Christopher Hampton was arrested and charged with the murder of Tamika Houston. He was brought to the Spartanburg police station for questioning. With the weight of evidence mounting against him, Christopher could see that denying his involvement would no longer protect him. Finally, he broke his silence.
He stands up and he says, "Let's go." We said, "Where are we going? Are we going to the jail? Or are you going to show us where she's at?" He says, "I'll show you where she's at."
That afternoon, Christopher led police into a dense forest, roughly 12 miles from the city center. He pointed to a patch of earth and declared it was where he had buried Tamika. He even mentioned how he had placed 2 branches like a cross to mark her shallow grave.
Right here, there were a couple bones on the surface.
Forensic specialists quickly began the excavation. It wasn't long before they found the skeletal remains of a human body. The lower jawbone remained intact, but the skull was missing. With heavy hearts, the team collected the remains and transported them to the crime lab. There, forensic experts compared the teeth from the lower jaw to Tamika Houston's dental records, and it was a match. Tamika had finally been found. Christopher was brought back to the interrogation room, where he finally confessed what happened that fateful night. Tamika suddenly came to his apartment, and she demanded money from him. Christopher explained that he was saving for the unborn child with another woman. Hurt and angry over his betrayal, the argument between them escalated into violence.
She wanted to borrow the money, so I said, I ain't got it right now. I said, I got a ticket coming up, I got to pay. I said, I'm sorry. My baby, she gonna be born, I got to buy some stuff for her.
Okay. Then what happened?
And she got mad. She said, well, God, she said, you always talk about that baby. You making the money, you give me some money now. She yap, 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 yap. She stood up and, I'm saying, she went off and she was like, yap, 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 yap. So I just...
What happened?
I just trying to turn down.
In a fit of rage, Christopher struck Tamika in the head with a hot iron. The blow caused her to bleed heavily onto the bedroom floor, and 1 drop of blood splashed on the photograph in his opened wallet. Overcome with panic, Christopher claimed he didn't know what to do. He wrapped her body in bedsheets, dragging her into the closet and barricading the door with his dresser to prevent her body from being discovered. Incredibly, he still went out that evening, returned with a teenage girl he had been seeing. They spent the night in the apartment, while Tamika's lifeless body lay hidden in the closet. The following morning, Christopher borrowed a friend's car to dispose of her body, driving aimlessly until he found the secluded forested area.
Okay, what do you do next?
I buried her. Like, got put dirt back on top of him.
Did you put anything else on top of it?
Made a cross with it. Like, what is it with the tree, like, cross?
Was you doing it just as like a burial for her or something? Or why'd you do that? I mean, that's...
I guess because... I'm sorry, I didn't mean to do it.
Finally, Christopher abandoned her car at another apartment complex, accidentally left behind his set of keys that would lead detectives back to him. While in jail awaiting trial, Christopher spoke to reporters and claimed Tamika's death had been an accident. He expressed regret and said he was haunted by the news coverage of Tamika's grieving family. Shockingly, a few months after burying her, he returned to the grave, dug up Tamika's body, and removed her skull. His reasoning was as chilling as it was calculated. He hoped that by discarding the skull in a city dumpster, he could conceal the identification of her remains. Though Christopher claimed to feel remorse, his actions and repeated denials painted a different picture. Spartanburg County Prosecutor Trey Gowdy began preparing for Christopher Hampton's murder trial. With a mountain of evidence, including forensic proof, witness testimonies, and Christopher's own recorded confession, the case against him seemed ironclad. Yet, at his arraignment, Christopher pleaded not guilty and remained in the Spartanburg County Jail as the trial date approached. By the final week of March 2006, the jury selection was underway, setting the stage for a courtroom battle to deliver justice for Tamika. On Monday, April 3, 2006, Christopher Hampton's murder trial commenced. In a surprising twist, Christopher stood up and requested permission from the judge to address the court. He changed his plea to guilty. His defense team appealed to the judge for leniency, arguing that Christopher's decision to plead guilty showed genuine remorse. They requested a maximum prison term of 40 years.
Are you guilty of the crime of murder?
Yes, sir. I don't know why he pled guilty. He wound up getting the exact same sentence that he would have gotten had he gone to trial and lost.
Mr. Hampton, the sentence of the court is that you be committed to the State Department of Corrections for life.
In a strong and decisive ruling, the judge sentenced Christopher Hampton to life in prison without the possibility of parole. He was transferred to the Broad River Correctional Institution, where he would spend the rest of his life behind bars. Reports from the prison showing that he has repeatedly violated prison rules and faced multiple disciplinary actions. The tragic story of Tamika Houston sheds light on a larger issue within our society: the disparity in media coverage for missing persons cases, especially for individuals of color. When Tamika went missing in 2004, her family struggled to get national attention. During that same period, the cases of missing young white women, such as Lassie Peterson, Lori Hacking, Jennifer Wilbanks, and Natalie Holloway, dominated national news. These cases became almost like serialized dramas, with daily updates that captivated audiences and sustained high viewer engagement. In contrast, Tamika's story was largely confined to local news in Spartanburg, leaving her family feeling abandoned when they needed visibility the most. This unequal focus became a national conversation, leading to the term missing white woman syndrome. For Tamika's aunt, Rebecca Howard, the media's bias was both heartbreaking and frustrating. She fought relentlessly to bring awareness to missing women of color, and her efforts did not go unnoticed. In 2006, Rebecca campaign inspired two women, Derica and Natalie Wilson, to co-found the Black and Missing Foundation. To date, this nonprofit foundation has helped over 300 missing persons cases. In 2022, Tamika's story reached a new audience through the podcast Finding Tamika. This series revisited the details of her disappearance and murder while exploring the broader issues of racial bias in media coverage about missing persons cases. As we close this chapter on Tamika Houston's story, we invite you, our viewers, to reflect on the impact her life and her case have had on society. Tamika's story is a powerful reminder that the families and loved ones left behind are often the most passionate advocates, pushing tirelessly for justice, even when the world seems indifferent. Her family's strength and resilience have not only brought awareness to her case, but have also contributed to a larger movement for equal representation. On January 9, 2017, the Houston family was struck by another devastating blow. Paramedics found Tamika's father, Anthony Houston, dead from a self-inflicted gunshot wound. His wife was also shot and was alive when emergency services arrived, but she later passed away at the hospital. The incident was ruled a murder-suicide. Friends who knew the couple were stunned, saying there had never been any visible signs of trouble. Tamika's death left an enduring mark in two profound ways: within her family and in the larger conversation about representation and safety. Her aunt channeled the grief into meaningful change, while her father, Anthony, suffered in silence, overwhelmed by the pain until the very end. What do you think? Will Tamika's legacy continue to inspire change as her aunt envisioned? Can we as a society overcome racial biases? Does Christopher Hampton ever truly feel remorse for what he did? Feel free to share in the comments. If there's a case you're interested in, let us know. And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Until next time, stay safe, stay aware, and remember to advocate for those whose voices can no longer be heard.